Greetings everyone, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, and I'm back to bring you another episode review from Season 9 of The Loud House. So let's get right into it. Today's episode is Apartment Complex. In this episode, Lynn, Lenny, Lana, and Lola sneak into Lori's apartment while she's away so they can each do something for their own individual benefit and eventually work together to get their sister out of the way more and more so they can keep doing what they're doing. Remember the episode Garage Band where Lori didn't want to keep putting up with her rowdy siblings and needed some privacy, and that's why she moved into the family garage? Remember how that same idea was touched upon again in the episode Homeward Bound, and that's why she moved into Mr. Grouse's garage? Remember when Lori's siblings wanted to respect their sister's privacy by choosing to leave her alone in GarageBand, and then you just assumed that lesson would have stuck following the events of Homeward Bound? Yeah, no, apparently that didn't happen. In this episode, 4 of Lori's sisters, and Lincoln during the final scene, either didn't get the memo, conveniently forgot about it, or just ignored it completely. Even after Lori specifically stated she didn't want anyone to come over to her apartment, her siblings decided to go into business for themselves and just invade their sister's apartment anyway. Lori's 4 younger sisters each made a plan to go into the apartment after Lori talked about some of the perks it had to offer, such perks being a huge benefit to each of them for one reason or another. Initially, Lynn thought she was the only one to have come up with the idea of using the apartment when it was empty, but then she finds out some of her other sisters had the same idea with a similar motivation. They agreed that this was only going to be a one-time deal and none of them were going to do it again. Of course, they do end up invading Lori's apartment again, at the same time, mind you, and they get on each other's nerves trying to do their respective activities. That's when they decide to make a schedule to set up individual dates and times to use the apartment so they won't be in anyone's way, and of course while Lori is at work or out and about somewhere. What's really frustrating about this is that when the girls are inconvenienced and asked what they should do to fix the problem, one of them suggests the obvious: respect Lori's privacy and leave. That phrase is repeated 3 times, and each time it's suggested that they do the right thing, they do the opposite and do what's best for them. It soon got to the point where the sisters were conspiring to get Lori out of the apartment during the week where she was unexpectedly not scheduled to go to work at all. One sister would keep Lori occupied while the other sister snuck into her apartment. Their little plan was going fine until Lenny, in typical Lenny fashion, messed up on what day she was supposed to keep Lori away from the apartment, and they were forced to hide in the bathroom when their sister returned home. I was honestly beyond shocked Lori didn't immediately recognize her sister screaming the moment she turned on the shower. That's pretty unbelievable. And you know what? As much as I criticize her younger sisters for deliberately disobeying a direct order and doing something sneaky behind her back, Lori also deserves some criticism in how she was depicted. Her sisters may have been acting selfish, but Lori was acting the same way, except her selfishness was more justifiable. I agree that Lori was well within her rights to say her sisters were not allowed to use her apartment, especially if she wasn't home, and it didn't matter if the reason was related to money, cleanliness, or just wanting her privacy. Her younger sisters had no right to do what they did, and they definitely deserve to get chewed out for their deception, but surprisingly Lori doesn't do that, and this ties into the point I'm trying to make about her character. There was a time when Lori thought she was losing a connection to her siblings and wanted to be there for them. Hell, she settled on living in her neighbor's garage just so she could stay in close contact with her family. We're not talking about total strangers here, we're talking about her family. She calmly acknowledges everyone's reasoning for wanting to use her apartment for some alone time. It's because of how crazy and crowded the Loud House can get, something she too is very familiar with. Gee, if only Lori could have shown the same sympathy to her brother in Sound of Silence. And actually, it's kinda hilarious how the girls got mad at Lincoln for wanting some alone time, and here they're wanting the same thing he wanted. Funny how that works out, huh? But anyway, if Lori was that sympathetic to everyone's plight, then there was objectively no reason for her to be that stern about telling her family they couldn't use her apartment under any circumstance. Again, I understand that it's her apartment and she makes the rules, but if she's literally never there, a paraphrase of her own words, what would the harm be in letting her family use it while she's gone? As long as they ask permission and promise to fork over some money in exchange for using it, then everyone benefits. I mean, they were willing to pay money towards Lori's rent after Mr. Grouch showed their sister the higher than usual cable and utility bills, so I don't think money would have been a problem in the long run. Plus, none of the girls exactly trashed the place like Lori assumed they would. The girls kept everything neat and tidy, which is a huge rarity for this family. I'm sure they'd be leaving the apartment in the same neat condition as it was when they first walked in to do whatever it was they were going to do. Still, they never asked permission to enter the apartment whatsoever, so their actions are more antagonistic compared to Lori's. At least Lincoln had the courtesy to ask permission beforehand, even though he was going to do whatever he wanted no matter what answer he was given. Maybe the girls decided to avoid a foregone conclusion and just skip right to being sneaky and devious? Yeah, that sounds about right. One last critique I have is that despite Lori being justifiably upset that her sisters invaded her privacy and they almost got her evicted because of their actions, she technically brought all of that upon herself. Every time she left her apartment, the door was always unlocked, and that's why her sisters were able to get inside every time. Even though Lori does have moments in later seasons where she can be a mature and responsible adult, consistently leaving her apartment door unlocked when she's not home is very irresponsible. It would have been one thing if her siblings managed to pick the lock or get a copy of her sister's key, both of which are never exactly seen or mentioned on screen. But the fact is, Lori kept her door unlocked and her siblings took full advantage of this severe lapse in judgment. If she was serious about not wanting anyone to go inside her apartment, including her own family, she'd have kept that door locked every time she stepped outside for any period of time. She had better security measures and get the message compared to this episode. Did she simply put trust in the idea that her family wouldn't do anything sneaky behind her back? Probably, but then again, this is the Loud family we're talking about. It also doesn't help when Mr. Grouse mentioned how Lori should change the locks on the door, which might suggest he also knows that his tenant leaves his garage unlocked. So, by extension, this makes Mr. Grouse look like a pretty irresponsible landlord. A consistently unlocked door is practically an open invitation for all sorts of bad things to happen. Like burglary, for example. Remember when Lynn Sr. kept telling his kids how important it was to lock the door in the episode Lock and Loud? Apparently, Lori didn't learn that lesson, so in a way, she practically invited her sisters into her apartment without even realizing it. Again, her sisters should have stuck to the mantra of respecting their sister's privacy and simply leaving her apartment alone. But hey, an unlocked door is an unlocked door, and Lori should be glad it was only her sisters who did the low-key breaking and entering and not some neighborhood prowler. A bill for extremely high rent would have been the least of her concerns. Overall, this episode is a pretty big mess as far as things go. From the way the characters were portrayed to how parts of the story either made no sense, contradicted past episodes, or they just pissed me off, I have no problem in saying this one is among the worst of Season 9. It's really disappointing because this episode shares the same production code with Meet the Parents, an episode I consider among the best of the season. I really don't know what else I can say about this one without having to go through the entire script all over again. I'd personally just give this a one-time viewing and that's it. You're not missing all that much unless Lori is your favorite character, and that's as nice of a compliment for this episode as it gets. With that said, I give Apartment Complex a 3.2 out of 10. Well, folks, that concludes my review of Apartment Complex. So I gotta ask, what did you guys think of this episode? Sound off in the comments below, and be sure to click that subscribe button for more Loud House related content. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys for the next video, but until then, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, signing off. Peace out, home slices.